The nation is watching as this massive hurricane is about to hit Florida, and I mean right on the precipice. And it is going to be a disaster of disasters. No question about it. And what are our politicians doing in Washington, D.C.? Fighting with each other. The people of Florida, they're very lucky they elected Ron DeSantis. He's take charge. He's like the George Patton of natural disasters. And he's taken charge. And I just had to watch the President of the United States, Joe Biden, give his second speech today about the hurricane, and the second time in 3 hours where he's attacking Donald Trump. This is a pattern. Whether it's the border, whether it's Afghanistan, whether it's the economy, they take responsibility for nothing. So I feel I have an obligation to respond to this. Biden and Harris are lying about what Donald Trump said about Hurricane Helene. And there is simply no question that the Biden-Harris regime failed in its response to that hurricane. Biden was in Delaware. Harris was in fundraisers and never attended a pre-hurricane planning meeting. It took her 4 days to get back to D.C. The people who suffered as a result asked over and over again, where is FEMA? We saw them on television from their own voices. The charities on the ground, the volunteers, the private pilots, and the rescuers all said on TV and in person that the government failed them. And then when the government showed up, it was interfering with their rescue efforts. It took a week to send the military in. A week. Many of the people were and are despondent, not because of disinformation, not because of Donald Trump, not because of Republicans, but because their government failed them. The utter incompetence and inattention paid to them until it was too late by Biden and Harris. It was the DHS Secretary, Mayorkas, who said that FEMA was out of money and not prepared for any more hurricanes. He said it. The FEMA website revealed the provision of over $1 billion being used for illegal aliens. A man-made natural disaster created by Biden and Harris, money that would have been available to the people who are now suffering. And the list goes on. But Biden and Harris take no responsibility for the infinite failures, including the border, the Middle East, Afghanistan, inflation, food and energy prices, etc. And when they're called out, they do the same thing again and again. Attack Trump, attack misinformation, attack, attack, attack. Even now, 30 minutes ago, Biden accuses Trump of saying things he never said. He attacks him as un-American. And Biden and Harris, well, they're the ones with blood on their hands for things that they have done and have failed to do. Yes, on the border, in the Middle East, Afghanistan. People are suffering. And worse, as a result of their decisions or indecisions, ideology, and failures. They're suffering. Even yesterday, 24 hours before Hurricane Milton is going to slam into Florida, and it's going to slam into Florida in the next 4 to 5 hours. Harris was basically making an ass of herself on Howard Stern. The View, Colbert, after having made an ass of herself on 60 Minutes. That's what she was doing. There's a pattern here of utter failure, of incompetence, of incoherence, of laziness, just plain stupidity in the Biden-Harris regime. Now, Biden is getting in front of Hurricane Milton, but make no mistake, Biden and Harris are personally accountable for the slow response to Hurricane Helene, president and vice president. That's why they're in full propaganda mode now, to cover their asses with the help of their corrupt media. It's amazing. The same media, the same Democrats, the same leftists who are saying that criticism like this is dangerous. They didn't say that during Katrina about George W. Bush, did they? May God bless the people in Florida who are about to face the most dangerous hurricane in a century. and the people in North Carolina and Georgia and other states that have suffered at the hands of Hurricane Helene. May God get everybody through this. May God save this country from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and their corrupt media. God, I hope so. Because I don't know how much more of this we can take. I really don't. Biden said earlier today Trump led the onslaught of hurricane lies. No, he didn't. He didn't lie about anything. He's criticizing them. And he should criticize them. And J.D. Vance has a brilliant op-ed in the Wall Street Journal today that I might read if I have time. And Trump was right when he said in Scranton, Pennsylvania today that Harris and Biden are responsible for the worst rescue operation in history with this hurricane. They're right. Now Kamala Harris and Biden said FEMA has the resources to deal with this hurricane. Well, what happened last week when Mayorkas, we played it, we heard it, we saw it, said that FEMA doesn't have any more money and it can't handle another hurricane. He said it. Now Kamala Harris and Joe Biden say that's not correct. Of course we can. That's misinformation. That's disinformation. That's Donald Trump. He's un-American. There she is on the Late Show last night with her buddy Colbert, telling victims, you're entitled to help. I beg you, please don't pay attention to the misinformation. This is how propagandists and demagogues work. This is how they do it. The victims are the perpetrators, and the perpetrators are the victims. We see it in the Middle East with Israel and the terrorists. Same thing. Then we actually had Mayorkas out there on CNN today. Misinformation is demoralizing to the men and women at the federal level. No, you're demoralizing to the men and women at the federal level, whether it's on the border, whether it's on the interior of the country with ICE, whether it's the personnel in FEMA. Ladies and gentlemen, under this administration, we've seen an incompetent Secret Service like we've never seen before in American history. We've seen an incompetent FEMA with this Hurricane Helene like we've never seen before in American history. We've seen incompetent treatment of the border like we've never seen before in American history. The incompetent attack on fossil fuels, on energy independence. The incompetent attack on capitalism. Price gouging, which only occurs apparently when Biden and Harris are in charge. Massive inflation. The mismanagement of our economy. Oh, no, you don't understand. It's somebody else's fault. It's Trump. It's Trump with his misinformation and disinformation. I don't know how much longer you're going to put up with this. We've never had anything like this that I can think of in modern American history, maybe American history ever. With a president who has dementia and a vice president who just doesn't give a crap. I have article after article, certainly not in recent times, in past times, of her staff attacking her, criticizing her to the media, and the media reporting it. And among other things, the criticism is and was and has been that Kamala Harris is lazy, that she doesn't read her preparation books, that she doesn't prepare for events, that she just goes in and shoots from the hip. I quote you from these news articles. And then when she comes off as the fool or she embarrasses herself, she screams at the staff. It's somebody else's fault. Well, that's how Kamala Harris treats her vice presidency. That's what she did with Hurricane Helene. That's also what she's done with Hurricane Milton. Biden has enough sense left, as little as it is, as an old political hand to know that he needed to get in front of Hurricane Milton, and he has. But not Hurricane Helene, where there he was in Rehoboth Beach. But don't worry, he was on the phone for 2 hours. But he didn't go to the pre-hurricane meetings, and neither did she, which is what presidents and vice presidents do. This has nothing to do with misinformation and disinformation. People are suffering, because this wasn't handled right. The people of Florida have a governor who's a hands-on governor, who gets into the nitty-gritty, who gets into the weeds. And as he said today, he's calling the shots. He's in charge. He doesn't do, I'm not accountable, I'm not the borders are. No, I'm the governor. I'm in charge of this, and FEMA is assisting us. That's what he said. And he's right. And he's right.